He's not always an easy guy, you know. He's not always an easy artist. He's one of those who has a very strong character and a very hard head, you know. It's like Chuck, he wants to do it this way. Who always insists to keep his Zulu tradition and his Zulu integrity.
Yabona-ke uMadala Kunene is a different kettle of fish. uMadala is so classical, is deep. To understand a history of where we come from as African people, especially as Zulu people, to understand music kaMadala Kunene. uMadala ucombina amahubo akwaZulu emculweni wakhe.
Uyabona ukuthi mengihleli ngibuka ubaba thula ngibuke idlala le ngoma yoMamezala ngithi ecula futhi ngisho ngithi mina oh madoda ngelinye ilanga ngoba yimina lo ngazakhele sami isiqinisekiso sethini lapho hayi kwasuka lapho kuze kube namhlanje.
I liken uMadala to Princess Magogo. Umama kaMangosuthu Buthelezi. You know, lo mama was so deep medlala umakhweyana wakhe. Ngibambeni. I remember as a little boy growing up listening to that music, Kamagogo, on the radio. And it inspired me. The sound is different. And I could not ever find omunye umuntu owazi ukudlala lo music onjalo until ngaze ngakhula ngamdala ngahlangana noMadala ngathi awu nawo lo music engangulalela ngisengane, which is very Zulu classical music.
uMadala ngimaze mina late 70s. Angithi ekukhuleni kwami mina nje la ngingaqala khona ngusipho wagwala. Ngizalelwe eChesterville, akhulela khona uMkhumbane mina ngizalwe usuphela.
uMadala sikhule nje siyimpintshi nje nemikhuba yabafana efanayo sonke nje. And naye angasho ukuthi sasingazi ukuthi kuzohamba kambe sigcine sisama musician sisabangani siyenza lento siyahamba siyahlukana.
I will never forget the day I first met Madala as long as I live. Because, you know, I was due to leave South Africa and live in New York job was set up there and everything. All of a sudden, I panicked because I thought, I've just got to hear music, local music. And I saw this little notice that this music was happening at a cafe in town. And it was unusual for me to go all the way to Durban, CBD, but I went. And there was Madala playing with 2 other musicians. And captivated me completely because he played with this intensity and it was just so authentic. And I loved the mfece around his ankles, and he was keeping time with those. And this beautiful voice, just singing that one note.
Umzwakhe lo wakakunene ozalwa ubantu owakuthiwa uThemba Kunene ethathe intombi yakagcwabe uGuza.
Ubhuti wami uMadala uyena omdala ekhaya. Sikhulele thina kaMashu kodwa insuka yethu isuka koMkhumbane.
Isizwa ke le uMadala Kunene sisuka nayo le eMkhumbane. Yona ke yayiseJipha Court yona. Mina ngisedabulamanzi.
Mebesho bathi ngazalelwa endlini la eMkhumbane eJipha Court.
Ngokuhlala eMkhumbane sasazana sivakashelana ngokunjalo nje. Sisakhula siphela sisafunda izikole.
Sengiyakhula-ke lapho ngikhulisa ugogo, ngikhulisa umama, ngikhulisa ugogo, intombi yakamntungwa.
Sekuqiniswe nje kwakwazana omama bakhe. Ugogo wakhe nowami bayazalana. Makhumalo. Umakhumalo. No.
Wangibona ugogo uthi hayi lo usho isikole akasithandi kodwa-ke uzosithanda. Yazi ngikhumbula sisemfuleni kulunye usuku wabona waqhamuka omunye ubaba nje wafika wangibamba ngithi ngqi. Wathi ugogo waqhamuka wathi mbamba angaphunyuki. Bangithatha bangisa esikoleni. Ngafika esikoleni ngalaliswa ebhentshini. Wangishaya uMiss Mthethwa. Angizange ngisaphindela esikoleni. Ngagcina lapho kwabizwa ngo-first year. Namhlanje ubizwa ngo-grade 1.
Kuthe-ke ngokuhamba kwesikhathi uMadala kusho ukuthi umuntu wayekhonza isikatshalo wayesikhonzela isiginci. Ekuqaleni kwale kusukela eMkhumbane. Osipho Gumede laba wayedlala nabo isiginci o-3 strings usinga lona. Baqala lapho kuze baze bathuthuke baze sebezoshaya iginci lezo 6 strings.
Ngino-7, sasengino-7 ubaba esehamba ngazakhela isiginci. Ya ngikhumbula kahle ngakho isiginci sekopi sethini lena amafutha faka iplangwe labaza iplanga ngafaka iy'ntambo zosinga ngayidlalela sona.
Sasiyidlalela sihambe sisuke iy'nyawo siyoshona ebhishi. Sibuye ebhishi sibuye sihambe sicela imali emgwaqweni sicule sihambe sicule sasingeke izigincana-ke zamatini. Sihambe sidlala amaningi abheni sihambe sidanse wonke umgwaqo. Hawu imali iyahlekela sothi siye ekhaya sibe sesinamasente. Waze wathenga isiginci-ke.
Hayi ngayidlala le nto le ngayidlala. Kuthe sengino-8 years ila sicabanga khona ukuthi sihlangane kube mina kube uPosi kube uMbo sakha iband.
I was playing in a band on the beachfront with Pilani's father, Elias Ngidi, and I asked him if he knew a singer that sang African music. And he said, well, there is this lady, uMkhumbane, but she's just come from overseas, but he doesn't think she wants to do anything here. So I said, well, I want to go and meet her. Then Bruce Sasibo took me to go and meet Busi at her house. And I played with some stuff because I'd been in America like African music that I'd been doing, because when I was in Cape Town, I was taught music by some Xhosa people. And so she was interested in what I played her, and then we put on a concert at the Rainbow. But it wasn't really the thing that she wanted to do. Then she called everybody to come to her house, to get all the musicians to come to her house. We stayed there for a few days and we just jammed. I used to play flute as well, so there was no electricity there. And Madala came there, so Madala was there with Doc and all these other musicians. And then we had to find a rehearsal space.
Hayi ngempela sakhula naye sidlala nje ngaveli sambe la khona ku-music sasiba khona. Masifika ke nala sayiqhubeka naye umdlalo wethu lo. Kunyeke sasikwenza sibisiwe ishoza lamaphepha skalistic. Sibesebholeni futhi.
La iduzane eceleni khona abacashile abakhuluma kancane abashova amaphepha. Ngoba kwakuyiseduze kwasema-Blackjackeni. Kwakuyiseduze nase-office lama-Blackjack enjunu. Bengabe singadlali ngidayisa amaqanda ngala. Ugogo hamba udayisa amaqanda. Uhlokana nalamanika peni. Le ndawo lapha ya. Bayivula ngenkani. Babengekho lapha abantu bake ngala abantu bakufaka amakhala kuba mandi. Bese kuba abantu. Ngiyabona. Then kushuthi lezi zimhlophe zaziplanile ukuthi no. Kufanele senze kanje ngoba sizokwazi ukungena ngala emakhalathini nasemandiyeni. Before sifike kulabantu.
Untomdala kangaka ngamavuvu. Phuza amavuvu. Unamavuvu. Unamavuvu. Phuza amavuvu. Phuza amankobi. Untomdala.
Lo mgwaqo lo wawungaka.
Gala mavuvu.
Mawungaka. Asihamba ngenyawo.
Phuza amavuvu. Unamavuvu. Unamavuvu.
Kunesigodi la. Indawo.
Unamavuvu. Unamavuvu.
Lonke le nqaba lamaphoyisa ukuthi azolamula ulaka. Ehla wonke
ama-Blackjack iwona siphethe uMkhumbane, hayi bopha abantu ngutshwala yonke inhlobo yotshwala, isiqatha, ugavini. Ngoba ngangokuthi kwaze kwasuka i-striker lapha eMkhumbane, abantu beshawa lamaphoyisa.
Lezi ezayiphethe ngaleso sikhathi zazingafuni ukuthi kube khona into esiyenzayo ejabulisayo or esihlanganisayo, you know nje angazi kuningi engingakusho nje. Ngoba mangithi ngiyazibuza manje ukuthi ngempela abantu babegijinyiselana mabegayela utshwala besizulu, angiyitholi kahle impendulo ukuthi kwakwenze njani kangaka.
The National Defence Force and police deployed in townships were incapable of stemming the tide of violence and bloodshed.
siyabheka lapha gezandla laphuza khona. Abangena abantu besifazane. Sibona abantu besifazane ababili. Abo-2. Bangumsini bathi sicela ukungena la. Kuma ama-Blackjack la, khona amaphoyisa okuthiwa ama-Blackjack. Amile la athi abangena abantu besifazane. Hambani nina la. Abantu besilisa labaphuza utshwala lapho ngaphakathi. Bathi, we maphoyisa, dedelana amakhosikazi ethu sizophuza nawo la.
Elinye i-Blackjack lashaya omunye umama-ke la ekhanda la. Hey, lasuka uthuthu. Hey, lasuka.
Sesizwa ne-voice, we, ungishayelani? Kanti i-Blackjack ashaya umuntu wesifazane ekhanda ngenduku. Wopha. Asuka amadoda lawa aphuzayo aqonda ngqo emaphoyiseni. Uyimpi yangesonto eyamanqama, awuyimpi yangesonto eyamanqama, zinsizwa siyohlangana ngesonto egilawundi.
Take your guns, your knives, and your pangas and throw them into the sea.
Awasindanga lawo maphoyisa omabili anabo.
Hey, impo ngakwayo ngokuzilamule eyibo. Kodwa yagcina ilamulekile.
Kanti laba abadayisa utshwala abathokha sebeyafona.
Ngiyakhumbula nami maqhamuka ikhwela yamaphoyisa lapho uzwe beyimemeza lapha kuthiwa mele kwacabazini. Bazoyimemeza-ke from ecabazini kushona phansi konsimbini.
Kuqhamuka umuhomba wemoto le yamabhejeni igcwele phezulu amabhejeni eza la achipa eza la kaphezulu lezi nsizwa ey'phuzayo la nokwenza wahlangabeza awuzange asafika la yami imoto endleleni adileka phezulu ngamamani hhayi bawadada kwatholakala ukuthi wona awacabanganga nje ngobeza nje ukuthi asihlome avane aphathe amadokipiki lawa ayirabha lawa ngaka kanti iy'nsizwa ziphethe iy'nduku akudlala bawashaya abaleka sathi sibona nanti ibhasi la-corporation seliyasha hawu nasi isitolo sakapelwane siyasha hhayi sathi sabona sekulandelana nje iy'moto zamaphoyisa kanje seyilandelana omeleko sasuka la njengoba siyadayisa sakhuphukela phezulu ekhaya safika beka ubhasikiti lapha ekhaya sabukela-ke manje into eyenzekayo eyi kanti phezulu amaphoyisa njengoba ehamba ayaphezulu khona indawo eseCato Manor kuthiwa iseshamveli sekuyasha lapho kusho ihholo ekhulu lomphakathi eyi yabona kwathi kuyokuhlwa kwahlwa singazi ukuthi kuzokwenzekani okuseqinisweni.
The National Party believes in the future of this country and all its people. We see our country on the threshold of a new, wonderful...
Ngoba kwakusangakusasa kwaphuma ngabona ugogo uphethe ilanga ugogo iphepha ilanga uyafunda ugogo uyasho ukuthi hey bafila belungu babulala amaphoyisa abelungu mhlambe awu-4 babulala amaphoyisa abantu mhlambe amathathu kwafa 7 konakele yilapho kwathiwa akuze amasosha kweza amasosha lapho yabona ukuza kwamasosha kwenza ukuthi abantu badinwe mo
kodwa ithina sasithunywa kakhulu ey'ndaweni mangabe kuthiwa kuyiwe kunozoba nomhlangano ethize nje kuthunywa thina fike emhlangano siyifake incwadi ngaphansi kweyicapha kwakunzima kakhulu sesizabalazo ngoba kwenzeka into eyisimanga ngamaphoyisa eqhamuka sesedubula ngey'njobolo ngey'njobolo job
ngakusasa ekuseni uma ubuka uMain Road wawubona kwakuphithizela kanje abantu basho into eyodwa abantu bathi Afrika mali buye iAfrika mali buye.
Ngiyakhumbula ngelinye ilanga siyingane kuthiwa mayibuye Afrika, sithi siyajoyina ke nathi siyalandela sithi masibuye sifakwa ambhande kuthiwa asiphindele emuva. Kuthiwa kiwa kaKito kuyokhulunywa indaba kaChief uLthuli.
Bayokhipha ubaba uLthuli ipresident yeANC. Hayi ukuthi bawucela ukuthi nikhiphe. Bayoyikhipha ngenkani.
Look to us to exercise effective leadership just to bring about a little improvement in your own family.
When kwangena incwadi ukuthi siyaphedlezelwa sokwakhiwa umashu sokwakhiwa nomlazi. Abantu abafuna ukuya emlazi noma kwamashu bangahamba.
Amabhunu esisusa eMkhumbane asisusa kabuhlungu. Sesingakathandi ukusuka eMkhumbane kodwa asisusa ngenkani amabhunu. Esakhile la umashu esakha umlazi.
Kwafika belungu kambe bemmezela umphofu ukuthi yathuthwa manje kuyiwe kwamashu. Wathi ngo-59 kwesiwala ngakuthina-ke manje siyababuka nje bayathutha. Hayi kwazi ukuthi uma sekuyila eduze siyabona silokhu size kukhona indoda yomlungu evasane idwiliza umuzi unyakazi ukuthi woluhlu phansi. Awu na impela sasambona indoda eyikhinjana. Kwakuthiwa uyikhinjana-ke lo mlungu. Hawu nangu uyikhinjana.
Lalifaka ikhindi kwibhunu lalisigqiqi nje. Elikhuluma isiZulu. Hayi ukuthi mhlawumbe isiZulu langasazi. Zonke amabhunu alezi ey'khathi ayikhuluma isiZulu.
Yebo, indoda nje kade idlakelana. Hayi umuzi yayivasane unyazi isitulo. Thatha iy'mpahla niy'fake kushoshobe emotweni.
Efit efake ikhindi ezizakhakhe. Efit. Yabona mengabe efike libamba kanje ikotishi elithi ubona inyakaza lithi. Athi ninjani? Kwathini? Hey mama, ninjani? Nizoya kwamashu? Hey, kuthiwa fanele nekwamashu. Hey, ayidlulela. Bavane ngikhumbula kahle befika ekuseni. Behla namaketango. Abantu abamnyama, hayi belungu. Bezowafaka lapha. Kusho ukuthi abantu abasebenzayo phela kumasipala. Bafaka lapha. Umlungu yena udriver isarasi. Wayedumisa lapha emuva. Yathi meyimuva yithi ikotishi lathi. Yamuva shona phambili. Lathi layilandele ikotishi lathi. Wow. Hey. Angaze ngikhale kanje.
We have got a plan to build a better life for all South Africans. And a better life means houses, jobs, free quality education.
Kwayona nje indlela esasuswa ngakhona eMkhumbane kwangeyona indlela yokuthi sisuswe nje kuvele bulldoze indawo nje ufakwe truckini.
Uhlungu engabuza. Hayi lo nto ayingilibali nje 1959 kwakuJune. Hayi leyo nto ngiyangilibali.
Ubabona abangani bakho isisuka itruck ugijime iqale ukupick up speed enzothi mase nibuya unihambe nibuzana ukuthi ingabe thina sihamba uyabona kuyinto ebuhlungu.
bathutha-ke labo bantu njengoba size sibonana nje ingoba labantu bathutha bayiswe entuzweni lalisalisha-ke ilokishi ekuthiwa intuzweni bathuthelwe entuzweni ngenhlanhla kwawukuthi umamncane wami naye uyiswe entuzweni ngo-7
masifika la kwamashu hayi sakhula nje kahle futhi siyadlalela iy'ginci zamathini ngaso sikhathi sakaluthola ithuba lokuthola iy'ginci lezi ey'nkulu
abantu abanye abawothathekile-ke abezwa kuthiwa kwamashu sekhona ithoyilethi elishawayo eliflashwayo khona nogesi
uMkhumbane kwakungafani nala kwamashu kwakuyizindlu zabantu zesintu impela nje
abantu babesusa uMkhumbane ngoba kusho ukuthi uMkhumbane hayi kwala kwakungcolile uMkhumbane kwakungcolile kodwa-ke babehlala abantu
asethi-ke lamabhunu-ke sizobona ukuthi nizohlala phi ngoba phela sithi ikhona indawo kwamashu ikhona indawo emlasa nina fanele niyikhethele nini nifuna ukuya kuphi wathi ugogo la angiyindawo.
All these great places like District 6, you know, District 6 was, everybody was living there, all colors. In Cato Manor, I think all colors were living there. In Sophia Town, all colors were living there. All these places were razed to the ground, you know, and the vibrance of people's communities was just destroyed.
Ngikhumbula kahle ugogo esethatha othayela ubeka ngala omunye ubeka ngala enze indawo ukuthi silale salala kwase ekuseni zafika ekuseni lezi zathi namanje gogo angingathanda ukuthi sinikeze ilift yakwamashu wathi ugogo benizwe ngubani ukuthi ngifuna ukuyaphi ngizohlala la kusho ukuthi-ke phela manje sesothatha umthetho ukuthi seniyaboshwa yilapho ugogo ohlela ngenzansi ubona ufika umuhomba-ke lo wemoto khumbula kahle wafika u-empty salayisha
safika ngo-1960 sifikela kaTiki khona indawo kwakuthiwa kaTiki la kwakulindwa khona imizi ila kwakulindwa khona imizi ukuthi ukwazi ukuthola umuzi kuma-sectionini kwa-A kwa-B ka-C kanjalo
kwetruckini ntuthulo nifike la kwaJiki lapha kwaJiki kwakukhona indawo kwakuthiwa kaTiki
ngabaleka kuqala ngezwe sekuthiwa nje kubhidliziwe kini imizi ayisekho senisemlazi yangihlala eMkhumbane ube ngibalekele kamalume lamuntu ezinye izinto zenzeka ngale lamuntu sasesinikwa-ke ukuthi asikhethe noma siya kwamashu noma semlazi sakhetha ukuya kwa-C ngahlala ilanga sengaganwa ngihleli khona kwa-C.
Ngesikhathi kuthuthwa for mina I was so excited kakhulu ukuthi hey siyahamba siya kwamashu angazi nokuthi-ke lowo das road loyo esiyakuwona unjani kodwa nje kwakukhona leyo nto ukuthi ngizobona obani nobani kwapho kade bahamba bona yabona
amakamero la mabili bese uba nekhishi ne-dining room thina sinogogo ugogo kona wathatha ikhishi ngoba vele sizoba nomnyango wethu sophuma ngawo
ngathi-ke nami sengikhula-ke la ngajoyina iklabhu yebhola yona lokuthiwa i-Wanderers
ngabanye ngayidlalela ibhola ngayiprakthisela isiginci sami dlala ibhola prakthize isiginci dlala ibhola prakthize isiginci
sibalwe sifakwe ebhasini sikhokhelwe ebhasini kuthiwa uloliwe sakusibizwa ngololiwe egeke encane
i-Wanderers sinikeze imali yokugibela sinikeze imali yokudla ayisifike emsizini
siyodlala lapha emsizini ingekho indlela yokuthi siyodlala lapha sidlala emsizini amagrawundi ayengekho la kwamashu
ngihamba endulinde ubaba njengoba nje wedlala igitara babe-quartet kwakufike kube ubaba igitara u-Ernest Khoza igitara uDixie uyacula uvonco uyacula beshaye quartet emunandi kanjani bacula boBafo bahamba yonke indawo uMkhumbane yonke indawo thina nje sikopela kubona phela njengoba nami sesiqalile nje ukuthi senze ama-makeup sikopela kubona
awulidlale mfethu ngihlale ngicabanga njalo ukuthi awungidlalela lona mfethu ngivele kuphele yonke into Sipho Gumede laba wayedlala nabo isigingci o-3 strings usinga lona baqala lapho kuze baze bathuthuke baze sebezoshaya iginci lezo 6 strings
La uzombona khona nomhlangana naye emgaqweni uMadala phethe isiginci. Abantu nje lokushini manikhula-ke nje kubonakala ngazuthi nje ikhanda lakhe aliphilile nje lokuhamba emgaqweni nesiginci. Kanti kusho ukuthi ngelanga-ke kwakuzomholela la ekhona-ke.
ayangiluma lamazenze ayangiluma lamazenze ayangiluma lamazenze
And that's on string bass. Yeah, string bass. There was a string bass, they said to Kozan. One string, yeah, you just put the one string. So I can see that.
baqala lapho baqala ngale intambo ey'ntathu ngethini ithini lezi baqala lapho ngazibona manje songathi nkosibana baqala lapho ethinini
uBafo ngimazi way back maybe kwaku 80 something yabo mangiqala ukumbona kwaba khona leya effect leya le for sure eba khona ku everybody oqala ukumbona because I didn't know about him kwakuwumuntu nje kusho ukuthi ngangize ngale kumngane wami kwaB kwaMashu and then wathi zamani khona into engifuna ukubonisa yona sayi uBafo uhlala ngale kwenye indlu ewumjondolo yabo
Uyayenza lento yakho umculo ulokhe ulandela uma lokho eshila ukuthi lento yenzayo izokusiza ngani uzophila ngani ekugcineni kosuku ngoba lento ayikhokheli
so angidlalele emagenge esakhile webayethe ngisakhuluma angidlalele le CD yakhe le vinyl yakhe le bathi yini khona ingoma engangiyithanda lapha yayithi sanibonani so ngathuka kabi ngiqala ukuzwa lento ukuthi sihlala nejam enje la we don't know this guy uhlala this guy uhlala la ngemuva nje kwethu
akonjani ube bangwana uma-ke uwumuntu obeyisebenzela emajaldini wayethembe kakhulu ukuthi ubhuti uma ngabe bekhula bazothola imisebenzi engcono athole ukuphumula naye
ngasho ngathi no umuntu awufuna umsebenzi ngeke bese kunje phela mina ngikwazi ukudlala empohlweni uzohlala kanjani empohlweni
ekhaya nje kwanalokho ukuthi nje uMadala akafunda bomsebenzi.
Ngangawutholi futhi hayi nothi ngangufunda ngangawufunda ngifuna uqamba amanga ngangibani ngishovela amaphepha ngidlalela ibhola. Umsebenzi engawuthola oqala ngawutholelwa ikamuhle lapha ubaba kaMarius.
No boss, no special. No boss, no special.
Sa-stress silayini umude masiyofuna wona amabhasi lawo kamuhle lapha. Lalapha special sakhona phela ube ne-special ufuna umsebenzi 14 days. Ungawutholi nje lo msebenzi 14 days lo.
Bakunike mawuqala ukuthi ngqa bakunike senyanga ungawutholi umsebenzi. Baphinde bakuginqabeze ngesika 14 days.
Izinto eziningi ebesifisa ukuzenza bezingakwazi ukuthi uzenzeke ngesimanga sepasi. Uma uthi uzama ukuthi uye ko-Home Affairs uchaza ukuthi hayi I'm a musician nani bakutshela ukuthi hayi ungasitsheli ngehobby yakho.
Hawu ujaha amaphoyisa mangaliphethe ngaso sikhathi hayi vutha ka amaphoyisa mashanyameni udabula wona ama-blackjack kwangahambi nje nombani la eThekwini ngalezo yikhathi.
Ilona elangixabanisa ngamaphoyisa uzubhotha ubheke eceleni nje indaba ye-late hour ngoba ngangiba naleli yokuphuma emsebenzini phela lelo langa-ke ngikhoza ukufuna ilokhuzi iphasi ukuthi bangidedele ingalelanga ngibanjwe esitobhini. Uyahamba iveni kuyahamba jikeleza nami-ke sasawokohlaka e-police station ekuseni ibhunuke leli kuSmith ipolice sekusmith ebuza wena ubanjelweni wena hayi ngibanjelwe late hour wena ubanjelweni udakwa buya ngapha mase ngibona ibhunu ubhota usule ngale but hey wena don't below Khanet
Angithi ubona
uyabona ngiphethe saxophone ngapha ubhota usubheke eceleni nehembe lemhlophe lo muntu akaphuma bephuma emcimbini loboshela kuhamba ebusuku wathi hamba kwawuphuma kwami.
Hey, ibhlungu-ke leyo ndaba. Ngiye ngizwe nje abantu masibekhuluma bethi kungcono kwakungcono kusehamabhunu ukuthi eyi madoda angazi noma abantu abazi kahle hle ukuthi kwakwenzakalani ngalesi sikhathi lesi abakhuluma ngaso ngoba bekungemnandi impela.
Ngaqala ukubona umculo kaBafo-ke sesibonana naye ngama-70s late.
Now lo music engangiwulalela ngiseyingane which is very Zulu classical music. You have to have a special ear to appreciate that music.
That's a nice guitar.
Bafo and I, we just hit it off. And at that stage I was repairing and building guitars. One day Madala was in my workshop with a guitar and my father arrived. And as he walked in, Madala just got such a fright.
Ngithi ngiyafika lapha esangweni kumi umkhulu nje kanje esangweni umkhulu nje.
And he said, Hayibo, nangu Skinja, which was my father's nickname, you know, because he always wore shorts.
Angithi ngiyambingelela ngiyambona ukuthi uyaniphela uqolo wakhe ngithi good morning athi yakwetheni.
Bafo proceeded to tell me that this is the man who demolished our shack in uMkhumbane. Of course, I didn't know what to do, in which hole to crawl into.
Athi oh Uyamazi umfana wami ngithi mina. Yebo, nawe ngiyakwazi. Wathi angazi mina ngithi wena ngiyakwazi ngikwazi kudala kabi uyikhinjana wena. Athi ha. Hey, Marius. Yabo. Kom.
But it was amazing. My dad said to him, you know, that in those days, he was just too happy to have a job because he had 2 sons that he had to get through school.
Hayi manje kwethini phela ungangizondi phela wethi ngoba phela manje ngithi mina hayi baba hayi. Ngisebenza kumasipala ngisuka le Orange Free State. Ngaqashwa ngazosebenza la ngisebenzela la bafana.
From then on, a beautiful friendship emerged between the two of them, which, you know, is only down to Bafo's powers of forgiveness.
Bengithanda angazi ngathini ngendlela bengikhonze ngayo nje. Umfana wakho lo Marius, that's my friend. And bengazi ukuthi uzalwa wena. Manje njoba sengazi ukuthi uzalwa wena. Nami ngumntanakho. Kwamina ngumntanakho.
It didn't take long before my dad's nickname appeared, and yeah, the nickname is classic.
Nami ngazi kamqamba igama.
He used to call my dad Nsimbi.
Ngathi unsimba igobe. Igobe German. Ngoba ugula manje abuthwe nezibi. Afika sindi.
Hey uDallas. Angeke ngikuhlele kusazana kanjani kwakuthini noDallas. Hayi angifuni ukuthi. Ungathi sineminyaka kodwa sazana noDallas. Ngahlangana noDallas khona iclub ebise Pound Town ngihambe kuthiwa yini Rainbow. Kodwa ngangaqali ukuthi ngiyazi ngegama. Ngathi mangidlala isiginci naye uDallas ubezodlala eRainbow lapho. Wadlala ngathi mangiqeda ngezwe uDallas sethi ayi wasibuyisa uThemba isiginci sasekhaya.
Udlala isiginci kuMadala. Lesiginci sakhe lesi ayi besikhala ngenye indlela lesiginci lesi. Manje ngiyasilalela lo baba udlala olunye uhlobo lomculo, enye inhlobo yamakhodi.
Beautiful voice, just singing that one note. Hey, he never went off the note. And then the next time, as I remember, it was the next time that you had all these other musicians, and I just thought, no, hang on now. That is overshadowing what you're doing.
So manje ngithi mangihlanganisa ngenza izibalo zami njobe edlala baMadala ngizwe ukuthi hayi lo music lo awufuni ukuloke ucomplicate wenza izinto ezinzima, ufuna udlale njengoba uzwa ngoba music wesintu. Futhi into engangizwa ngalo mculo lo uyalapha. Yazi meshaya oversana uphuma uhlevane bese idlala lo mculo uMadala. Ntambe enkulu ungangena kanjani la? Wangiqamba wathi ngontambe enkulu.
Ngibona osisibusa imhlongo beze ekhaya bazohlala naye kushawe iginqi lana nga-understand ukuthi kwenzakalani ngingane.
We had to find a rehearsal space, you know, because people didn't have bus fare and so on, so they couldn't go through to town. We had to have something local. And Madala was so kind. His family of 5 moved into one room, and us, the band, we moved into the other room. I had some equipment. I had a bass amp, a guitar amp, and a drum kit and a microphone. That was the beginning of my association with Madala, which has been a very long one, by the way. Put together a program, and you know, every day the school kids would come and listen to us and bring us food, and everyone would listen. It was like a party in Madala's house, you know.
Sekuyabhenywa khona la kuyashunqa intuthu khona lana thetha umana nukisa lento egcekeni.
We were all smoking buddies, and Madala would provide a lot of the smoke. So, you know.
You know, he would go into the live room and do a take, and every time he came out of the live room, he'd grab some zol and start crushing it, you know. And we'd say, Bafo, please, Bafo, we want you to go and do another take. No problem. He just, wherever he is, you know, dust off his hand and go in and do another take. When he comes out, he grabs more zol, starts crushing again, you know. So by the end of the session, there are these little pyramids of zol throughout the studio.
Saqala saphuma ko Cape Town, saqala sayenza ama shows ko Pine Town, sathola ne manager kunosisi nje omhlophe owasilekelela kwambambe bembiza uNaren Stevens.
Those were the days. Those were the days. And what was so fabulous for me was that I was getting introduced into a underground, well, for me, underground scene. It was out of the suburbs, you know. I was getting introduced to a wonderful life where I could get introduced to other musicians and managers and try and get a recording deal. That was easier said than done. Suddenly, I was going to New York again and San Francisco. And I took the cassette with me, that demo. Handed it in at Capitol Records, I remember that, in New York. And contacted Hilton Rosenthal, who had recorded Johnny Clegg. And got positive feedback, but you know, they said we had to make another demo. But before that, Madala decided to go solo, and my daughter decided to go with this jazz fusion group. Okay, so now things changed. And then that they took the name Zanussi.
Bakwakhona ibhendi ekwakuthiwa iZanusi. Ya ilidwa enye insizwa kuthiwa uBruce Sosibo benawo baMadala. Insizwa ehlala la kasi kwamasho. Bakhona bangifundisa ke mangifundisa ukuthi hayi na umculo washaya uBruce Sosibo wayeshaya ama-drum, adlala i-percussion, aphinde adlala umakalabha. Insizwa efaka umakalabha. Kodwa ngendlela eyayinhle ngayo lento ayiyenza wayeshaya umakalabha ngenye indlela awushaya ngathi ukhona i-percussion.
You know, I'd been given a contact of Duma and Ndlovu, and I phoned him up and I said, listen, I've got a demo I just have to share with you. And he lived in Harlem. I caught a taxi to Harlem and I met him and gave this demo to him, and he also referred me to Island Records. So that was fantastic. So yeah, I shipped that demo out quite widely. But you know what? Unfortunately, maybe it was not commercial enough. Music was not commercial enough.
You have to have a special ear to appreciate that music, to understand a history of where we come from as African people, especially as Zulu people, to understand music.
Now it's different, of course. Now you can find on the States labels, you know, very ethnic sounds. But in those days, people weren't interested in ethnic music. It's a fact, eh?
Madala ucombina amahubo akwaZulu emculweni wakhe.
Because we're talking now 1989, so it was early days. Around about 1992, that's when ethnic music became more fashionable.
Now, because we have been so colonized, Tina, as black people, umculo wethu sawubukela phansi, abelungu benza ukuthi siwubukela phansi umculo wethu, sithande umculo wabelungu, even if it's classical, sithande choral le yabelungu, you know. Esingakwazi nokuyicula correctly because akusiyona idiom yethu.
Sile phesheya kwelwandle kuphi abafuni sidlale le ndaba zidlala, bafuna lezi zethu. Sizibonele futhi le nto sikhuluma sizokubuzwa bethu. Ngoba nabo ngeke basukele bazodlala umaskandi la, leyo ngeke bayenza.
You know, I love Madala's style of dress to this day. It's unique. Do you know, I even got some bleselo made for myself, yeah. And I used to walk around with my bleselo as well. Remember? It has taken time for this music to be seen as valuable as it is. You know, if you think that eventually Madala was asked to play at Carnegie Hall, I mean, what does that tell you? It's just the most incredible thing. I'm so proud of him.
Mina athi bamadala mina ngicabanga kanje ntombi wena ucabanga kanjani nto bese ngithi hayi bafo mina nami nguzulu bafo ngithi manje lapho sengiyamvumela awuyimpi yangeso athi bafo ntombi enkulu na ngiyagiya manje wozaphi nami mfane ngithethe isikhwili sami ngigiya kuba ilo nto ke fika yasihlanganisa nobaba uMadala endlela ngimkhonze ngakhona anginike ngakhona ichance uMadala ukwazi ukudlala isiginci bese ngathi isangoma siyabhula sibhulela abantu uMadala kudlala isiginci engazi ukuthi yibutho liyagiya liyempini.
So, you know, to me, it was more important that Madala be solo and not overpowered by a huge big drum kit. And we talked about that. And I made a leaflet for people that came to the shows, writing the lyrics in Zulu, translating into English, and yeah, it was, and making some posters and. But you know, gradually we just kind of figured out, me, completely new to the game, it was just logical what had to be done, you know. Lot of press. Oh, wherever I could, I'd send things to the press, to the newspapers and magazines. And so this group got known as a Lucy.
So what happened the night after the Fourth World concert at the Playhouse? Kunene came backstage and took Ayeto, Josenet and myself to Chairman's son.
Uyazi uRobert sihlangana naye ngo-93. Kuhlangana kanjani? Babe neshow la ePlayhouse. No Cato Manor, Flora Pier, Joseneto. Tina ngalelo langa sasidlala eGerman Sons.
In 93, the group Fourth World, with Ayrton Moreira, the Brazilian percussionist, and then his wife, Flora Purim, famous singer, they came to Durban to play at the Playhouse.
Iset yethu esasiperforma lapho kwase kuyiculo lokugcina. Ingqongqo lezi ngaka uRobert uhamba phambili u-Echo ngemuva, uFlora Phiri, uJosonetho nje mabeza nje. Eyi, abantu bangena ngemva yokudansela leculo lesilenzayo. Ayi, ngabona ngathi ngoba sekufopaza okugcina ngathi Bernard asivali manje mfowethu, angivali ake siqhubekeni. Yabona nabantu abangenayo kufanele singaqale sivale. Ngicela nje ukuyidlala nje ngizonishayela isayini.
And then I don't remember kwenzekani sadukelana. And then waqhamuka sebenza no Robert Trans.
Obviously, this was in 1993. It's around the time when the democratic transition was at its height, and Madiba was soon to become president. We had long discussions and preparations, but we returned in 1994 with Ayrton.
Bese kuqhamuka uHerbert khona lapho ngevoice athi Robert ngifuna uwarekhoda ama-artists ala eSouth Africa.
So we returned to South Africa to record with dozens and dozens and dozens of artists from all over South Africa. And amongst them there was Bafo.
So Bafo had connections. Robert was my start before I made my exhibitions. Wangicela ukuthi ngimenzele ama-covers, Melt 2000, Just Jazzing, Ancestral Spirits.
Baba kuMadala-ke wangihlanganisa-ke nenye insizwa kwakuthiwa uRobert Trans wekhampani eyayibizwa Melt 2000.
So if you take the abbreviation MELT, means musical energy and loud truth. It was there when the friendship between Ayrton, myself, and Bafo started.
Madala, bona ngithi yathi uzoya lapha e-office labelungu laba abaphesheya badinga ukubona. Ngathi mina hayi anginankinga sisi. Wasethi uyiphethe into zakhona. Ngathi ugwayi ngathi phela ngidlala ngiphethe ugwayi uyazi. Madala, ngathi usasinegama lami lo Bafo. You have something? Ngathi yes. Wona ngikhipha iplastic egcwele mpu ngayibeka phezulu kwetafula.
The story with Madala actually became more interesting in '95 when Pops Mohammed called me to say that there were 4 ladies from London coming to South Africa.
Wafaka mina studio, wafaka uSipho studio. Kwakhona amantombazane asuka eLondon. Ubona lawa angibhekishayo kwi-CD yami lethi iNkonkomane. Angithi kwakuyisiqomkomane. Bona oRobert ngokuthi abakwazi ukuthi isiqomkomane bathi iNkonkomane.
Yangizwa lensizwa ngiperforma live noMadala sasenza ingoma kaMadala ethi Konkomane.
Pops wanted to record them with Madala, which I thought was a great idea. So I gave him a budget and he went ahead and they recorded this whole thing. So when the tapes came back from South Africa to the studio, the Brown Hill Farm Studios in England, I had to ask for the tapes to be sent back to California, to Santa Barbara, to the studio, so he could, do some overdubs with other musicians, with Flora, Gary Brown, Jose Neto, Joino Santos Neto. So Konkoman, that became the album Konkoman, The Strong Man. Konkoman was a song that's been used in lots of different contexts, but today it's defined a little bit our relationship to be in a triangle between Santa Barbara, London, and Durban. Because here suddenly we had people from 3 continents working on this project. There was Busim Shlongo, she turned up the first time on uMkhumbane. There was Tunokwe, Mabito Bejani, just to mention a few that were on the album.
So we wanted to put these guys in a map, no, in a way of management, ngoba babengatholakali. Babengatholakali. Ufuna idrama la eThekwini awazi uyithola phi, yamazi ukuthi ubani, usibongiseni, but akana phone.
Hayi then ke sabona ke qala ke qhubekela ke sizwa kuthiwa uMadala uyahamba yaphesheya.
Sekhonjwa phesheya nakhe siyaphesheya hawo. Kube mnandi nje nakumi ngesikhathi nami ngibhizi ngiyasebenza sosikhathi.
Into esasiqala ukuyibona emndenini nakuyifamily, umuntu osephuma kuma TV, umuntu osekhuluma kuma radio.
Wasidlala lesigingci sakhe engangokuthi waze wathola isikhathi sokuthi ahamba ephesheya kwezilwane.
Sahamba ngempela hey uSipho wabuza kumina ukuthi webafo ubusi uqashwe kanjani ngathi angazi ngabe ngiqamba manga anginalwazi mesifika phesheya kwamnandi kwarehezwa mnandi kwamnandi kwamnandi.
Useke wangithatha nje uMadala ngayojika naye le France, waphinde wangithatha sahamba saya naye le eNew York ngoba indoda-ke abayibizayo impela emazweni kakhulu nje kakhulu. Kuyaye kuhluphe kona-ke phela ukuthi-ke akakwazi ukuthi ahambe nathi all the time, mhlambe baye bafune yena yedwa ahambe.
Robert Trans and Madala's lives are absolutely intertwined. I mean, most of, if not all of Madala's releases were done through Robert's Melt 2000.
Hayi ngisebenzile noDallas. Siyenzile ne-recording. Kufanele ukuthi ipush impela le-recording ngoba le ginqe besidlala lapha noDallas azikho impela.
Senze city. Le city esenzayo Freedom Countdown. Wajabulela lo mnumzane waphendula masishaya wathi Madala ngicela wenze isolo album.
Bangihlanganise nomlungu wase-Switzerland ekuthiwa uMax Lasa. Bese ethi kune-album ekufanele siyoyenza. Mina ubaba Madala uyena uMax nolungiswa plugist.
Akamazi ubusi mhlongo. Wazi mina noSipho. Isikhulunyiwe vele lo nto uthi hayi. Bafa umncane nje ake sidle sodwa la. Awuwayeke nje amanye ama-artists nje akhona. Mina ngithi ngenhliziyo ngeke ngikwazi ukuyeka uSisibusi iprofessional nje ecula kanje.
Sihlale phansi ngokuthula.
And Robert said something to me once, and he said that there was no one in this world that knew him as well as Madala did. And I thought that was quite significant.
Robert wabana wathi sisonke ngathi Madala uzongiphelezela se-airport.
The day of return to the UK, that Madala slipped me a copy of Buzi's album, Babemu. just before I got onto the plane in Durban, plane to London. And he asked me to listen to it because he thought Buzi should join the label.
It's certainly rare in the music industry that an artist and a record company owner has a relationship like that.
But to actually having this specific album given to me was kind of a godsend, you know. So I got I got to listen to it the next day on my big B&W speakers, and
ngo-11 kwangena ifoni, mina nginefoni la, ingena ka-next door, ingena lapha kabheki, wathiwa hey Uncle Madala, ngathi yes, wathiwa gijima na ifoni, wagijima. Hello?
immediately called Bafo back in Durban and asked him to arrange for me to meet Buzi.
Wathi ungangiqhumanisa naye, ngathi easy Bafo. Ngathi ngizwa nje sebeqedile ukuxoxa, engifona futhi uRobert. Next month nize London. uBusi, uSipho, wena.
On stage we have older generation musicians. We have uMkhumbane, who's going to Sakile. We have Pops Mohammed. We have Nabe Topajani. We have
The International Meltdown launch concert that followed the recordings in '94 took place in London at the Covent Garden in 1995. That's where Madala, I think, for the first time ever, came overseas to perform his music. It was interesting because the UK press very quickly compared him with Alifaka Touré.
Wow.
And it helped him to expose him a little bit.
Ngikhumbula ngo-2014 ngihamba ngiyosebenza eCarnegie Hall, ishow e-organize uBrahim.
Bafo was asked to go and perform at Carnegie Hall, and there's no one more deserving of that honor.
Wathi uBrahim, Bafo, uyazi Carnegie Hall? Ngathi ngizwa ngendaba. Wathi hayi ngifuna ukuya khona-ke, ngalo music wakho nje uyangena khona.
So the night before he flew out, there was a farewell that was arranged at the Playhouse for him. We got back here after 12 to find a list of questions sent by some newspaper people that he had to answer. Anyway, we started. And then there was another question. The question was, how did it come to be that you were asked to go and perform in Carnegie Hall? And then Bafo said, I got to, mfowethu leli singaphendula ngephi. Ngithi, oh, so ithini Bafo? Wathi bhala lapha ukuthi, because I'm a fucking giant.
He's not always an easy guy, you know. He's not always an easy artist. He's one of those who has a very strong character and a very hard head, you know. He's like Chuck, he wants to do it this way. Bafo is one of those creative guys who always insists to keep his Zulu tradition and his Zulu integrity at all costs.
My name is Helge van Dijk. I'm an engineer, producer and composer from Switzerland, and actually it's my first time now in South Africa. I came here to a break from my work in Switzerland. I just finished a production and I want to visit my friend Robert. And he say he's not here, but he wants me to introduce to Bafo. But finally I arrived here and I met this wonderful musician, artist, and good spirit. And the last 2 days has been magic for me.
uRobert kumina umfowethu nje kumina and uyizinto zonke kumina ngoba ukwazana kwami naye kwangenza ukuthi ngazi phesheya kwangenza ukuthi ngisebenze nama-artisti ebengingawazi aziwa uyena, ngisebenze no-Cato Manor, ngisebenze no-Max Laser, ngi-invite Andreas Vollenweider.
So Madala, I would put him on par with Andreas Vollenweider from Africa. That's the sound that is uniquely his. Andreas Vollenweider gives you something which you cannot find anywhere in the world. Akekho umuntu odlala lwa music. Not even Bo Quincy Jones have ventured into that style of music. It's only Andreas Vollenweider.
Bafo! Ah, new guitar! Huh? Yeah! Robert Trunks was, you know, the man who brought all together. I was then finishing a record, which became a record which is called Between, which was a completely instrumental record, like most of mine before. And he just said, well, bring the original tapes with you, or at least some of the tapes, you know, 24-track tapes, real tapes. Let's see if our African friends can add something to my music. And then he said, Robert said to me, well, I want you to meet this guy, Madala. He was around. He wasn't there when everybody was there. He was coming later in the evening, or he was somewhere in a corner smoking a little bit.
Because I was intrigued by the way he plays his toro toro. There's no English name for that instrument that he puts in the mouth, but I can only say it's like a mouth hub, you know. He's playing this thing, is going twang, 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 and he's singing at the same time. He's singing praises to King Shaka at the same time while he's singing. It's so complex and so deep and so sophisticated. Only Madala Kunene, and I wish Madala that can be captured so that it can be passed on to future generations, because even universities cannot even score the music of Madala Kunene. He's truly special.
Sayibhemele kwamnandi yazi futhi namanje ngendlela nje sesitholana ngayo noDallas. Empeleni ngokufanele ngabe sihlalele sobabili ngoba sesigugile. Yabona uDallas. Fundiseni ngani uDallas isikhathi kona ngumazi.
And for me, it was a revelation of another kind of music, and where I could participate, because I had no idea what he expected. Though. Nice. And for me, this was a big, big change, and mainly because playing with Bafo, with the others just contributed to my thing, but with Bafo, I got closer to a kind of an understanding of African music and how it works, even though I know Bafo is a very individual, special character. You know, there's not many Bafos around there. But we always had fun, and I learned a lot. You know, I learned to get rid of control and just be in the music and add stuff. And I must say, on the first record we did, there is some of my best guitar work I ever did. I learned a lot, a terribly lot about that, and it changed my way of approaching music a lot. You know, much freer. When you hear my earlier records, this is very arranged, very controlled, and I could get rid of this, you know, and just take it as it comes right now. And this is because of Bafo.